Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Phyllis Edwards. This is episode 22 of The Widow Speaks. We have had a number of wonderful, wonderful guests, and I am doing this today to kind of remind you to go back if you have missed it, because there have really been some very informational pieces that I think have added a lot to those that have had a chance to get a chance to hear and see. Just to recap a little bit, you can go to YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, any number of outlets, but I think of those as probably primary, and go under Flagler Voice, and then look down onto current podcasts, and you will find us under Widow Speaks. And you'll see all the different episodes. You'll see the latest episodes first. But I would try to go back to the beginning. That was when I just began. Had no idea what a podcast was. Well, I kind of had an idea what a podcast was, but I had no idea of how you do a podcast. So it's been very informative. And I hope that it's been informative for you as well as you're listening. But it's interesting. So this is perhaps about 9 months since the passing of my husband of 50 years, which is really the reason why I started to do this. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about it. But I swear to you, I kept hearing, as I was going through all this stuff, I kept hearing podcast. You should do a podcast. And I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, let me see about that. And I guess at the time, I think probably what you probably experienced the first, I would say I thought I was doing pretty darn well. Was crying, of course, and sad, and people talk about brain fog and all of that. And I didn't feel like I had that too badly, but I think truly from his actual admittance to the hospital, until he took his last breath, and then on after that, really probably the first 3 months, I think I was in shock. There are things, I don't know if you've experienced this, but there are things that I can't remember about that last day and a half, perhaps, from the time he told me he wanted to go home to be with God, which was, like, I guess that was the beginning of, you could have knocked me over with a feather, to, saying the word hospice, which he said twice. And then he said, "Don't leave me." And my daughter was somewhere in the room, and there was a nurse somewhere in the room. But honestly, when I talked to my daughter about it later, I didn't remember anybody being in the room except him and wanting me to come over. And I had to listen very closely because for about a year before that, he was losing regularly his voice. He would get it back, and then he would lose it. And then towards the end, it was going. And we couldn't figure out what in the world was going on. So as you get past that, you start to do research and you start to read about the things that can happen when somebody is beginning to decline. So that's one of them. The other one was that, and I didn't know this at the time, but probably I'd say this was going on for about at least 2 years. He was losing his balance a lot, and he was always covering it up, like, oh, my ankle just went out, or this happened or that happened. But towards the end, he was falling more, and that really scared me because he was a lot bigger than me. Even though he had lost quite a bit of weight, that's another sign. And I remember telling him, if you keep losing this much weight, I don't know if I could stay with you because I don't want to be with a man that I'm bigger than. But, that was a joke. I was trying to be funny. But I took such good care of him when he was home. That was my life. That was my mission. That was my calling. always making sure, because his kidneys were in bad shape. So always making sure that he had a lot of fluid, that if he had to take a medicine, I was there to give it to him, feeding him, making sure he ate breakfast. And then I did notice, again, towards the end, I could catch him sometimes, like I'd be cook for a couple hours, and then I noticed he was giving the dog the food under the table. So, I noticed he wasn't eating as much as he did before. Um, so when I lost him and he left to go to be with God, um, I guess, like I said, the first couple months were all about the paperwork, and I know I wrote that pamphlet and shared that with you. And I talked about it on the second episode, and that one, it probably has a good deal of information for you to go back and look at. And since then, we've had financial advisors and lawyers and doctors and grief therapist and sociology people and counselors and all kinds of people, safety experts that have been on, to kind of give you a feel for the things that you don't ever think you're going to address. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, but, at the age when I got married, which, at that time I was older than most, but I think I was 23, but you still, you just say till death do you part. And yeah, okay. You don't know what that means. You don't know what you're signing up for. And then all of a sudden, really in the blink of an eye, 50 years has gone by. And so what you notice afterwards is that you've lost this person that was everything to you for 50 years. And at first, maybe because of the grief and because of the things that you have to do, you stay very, very busy. And, you do all the things. Like I had to sell my house because I couldn't afford to stay there. You realize that your Social Security and all kinds of things that you were getting, all that is cut in half. So you're losing your purpose, which at the last 3 years really was, and beyond that, because at the age of 50, he got very sick and had leukemia, he had brain surgery, he had a lot of different things. He struggled with diabetes most of his life, but he handled it. He handled it well, and he was a fighter. So I guess that's why it created such a big shock for me, because when I left that morning, it was thumbs up, we're going to do this. And then when I came back, the few hours later, after he'd had another dialysis treatment, that was it, he was done. So you lose your purpose. You lose your identity. I'm a strong person. I've done things independently. I've even broken some glass ceilings, but I was my husband's wife, and that gave me a great deal of confidence, and it gave me a good identity. It gave me always someone that, was there for me and I could talk to without any concern. You could just say what you wanted to say. So you lost your best friend, you lost your love, you lose your confidence. You begin to not know really who you are anymore or what you're doing here. And so while you got all these things going on, I want you to stop and think, because you may be in the first part of it and you're feeling all of this, but people will tell you, and I don't want to be the harbinger of like bad news, but people will tell you the second year is worse. And I'm like, oh my God, it can't be. Well, I can tell you that this is about 9 months for me, and all of a sudden it's like, boom. It's like your body, all of a sudden your body, your physiology recognizes that this person that held the space beside you for so many years is not there anymore and is not coming back. And you feel a sense of, it's like constant fight or flight. Your body is like high tune stress. And it's because, as what I've read a lot on, that's my thing. I'll read, I mean, when I had my first baby, they gave me something to make me, have the baby faster, and I couldn't control the contractions. And this was all during, I have a purpose for this. This was all during the time when you weren't supposed to get any meds. Everything was natural. Great for the mother. It was very good for the baby. But anyway, they gave me Pitocin and I couldn't control it. So when I had my second baby, which was only like 15 months later, I said, I don't want that. And I was reading a book called Have It Your Way, which is the Burger King symbol. But I was literally, because if I'd had 5 children, which I wasn't going to anyway, but if I'd had 5 children, I would have always had them premature. So by the 8th month, I was having my babies. So I only got through like 3 of the classes. Mostly you get through the breathing part. So I was through 3 classes and reading this book. And I remember going into the hospital reading this book. Like the nurses were all laughing at me. I was like, oh, I'm in transition. That's why I want to kill you. Like, and they're laughing. The nurses are laughing and everybody's laughing. But I was serious. I was trying to find out where I was. And I guess I couldn't read fast enough, whatever. But it did take a long time. And boy, it was a struggle. But I did it my way. And that, I can't believe I'm saying that. That was our song for our wedding. That was the only thing Steve picked was My Way. What a song for your wedding. I mean, it made no sense, but I was desperately in love with him. So whatever he wanted was going to happen. But you feel this sense of extreme loss and fear, and your body it suddenly realizes it's by itself. And this person was your protector. This person was the person that was on your side all the time whenever you went anywhere. This person was there. If I'd go walk my dog and somebody would say something to me or whatever, and I'd come home and tell him, then I had to be careful what I tell him because he was going to go and, see that person. Of course, when he got into his older years, I think he realized because something did happen, and I came back and told him, and I thought, and he's just said, don't go there anymore. Don't walk across the street. It's not good. Don't go. Something's wrong with that guy. Stay away. Then I knew. I said, that's not there anymore. But that's why you're feeling the way you're feeling. So it is really good to get help. I mean, I never went to anybody my whole life, and I went through, as I said, a lot of stuff with my husband. Brain surgeries, treatments for leukemia, bone marrow transplant, earlier surgeries for common bile duct blockage, and that caused pancreatitis. And he was in the hospital for probably about 8 weeks until I got him moved out of that hospital because things were not going well. And he survived that. And then even a year after one of the operations, he turned yellow. I'm like, what is this? Okay, so that's liver, obviously. And he had a pseudocyst. So back we went, and they took care of that, and he survived that. So my experience with my husband was terrible, terrible things, then blood clots and TIAs and all kinds of things. But he always came out of it. He always survived it until the last 3 years. So at the end, it was a shock for me that he wasn't going to fight anymore. So I have to stop and think, and I want you to stop and think today. In the time that you've had, with all this stuff going on, all this loss, you can stop and think about what you have accomplished, because we don't do that. We don't stop and think about the things that we have accomplished. So, like you, faced with going to Social Security a couple times, I'm still not done with them, but for me, it was always circle back, circle back. I did all the pension stuff, and I did all the paperwork. If you'll listen to our financial people, you won't make the mistakes that I made. I was the beneficiary, so you call on those things as the beneficiary. It wasn't tons, but the thing is, you don't know enough to know that, okay, it's October, November, December. If you wait, it won't count against you. Like maybe take, if you had two things, maybe take one now and take one in January so that both won't be on your taxes. Because as our financial person has told us, there's a widow's, it's almost like a widow's punishment or something, but in 2 or 3 years, usually the second year, I'm seeing it already because I've already gotten letters from Social Security, saying they're going to take back this and they're going to take half of that. And, I mean, you find yourself without half an income, so you may have had to do like I did. You have to look at everything. Yeah, I had to sell my house and I sold it at a loss, but I had to get out of it because things were going wrong. You never fixed this stuff before. It's always was your husband. Now all of a sudden you're doing all of his jobs. So taking out the garbage, killing the spiders, those kinds of things, that doing the pool, maybe if you had a pool. He was kind enough to try to go to the grocery store, but it wasn't worth it because, then you get the calls or the text messages saying they don't have any tomatoes. Like, no, they have tomatoes. I'm telling you, they have tomatoes. But if you're one of those people that doesn't go to the grocery store, you don't know where stuff is. So, also you find things like, okay, I'm driving around in my car now, which I also got rid of my car because it was a $450 something payment. So I went and leased a car for less. So you start to do all these different things. And the first time I bought a car or leased a car without him, I didn't sign the papers right away because I came home and had a panic attack. Because in my mind, that's stuff I always did with him. I had to sell his car and take everything to the whatever, DMV. I had to go file for homestead exemption. He always took care of all that stuff, but I had to file. I had to fill out the forms to have a mortgage in this new place that I found where they were given 4.5% interest rates. Well, 4.5% versus 7%. You don't have to be really too bright to figure that one out. But you do have to do all the moves. You get everything in your house set up and ready. I had to do the taxes for the first time. Oh my God. You're looking to see if you can find the taxes from 3 years before. Don't give up your phone. Don't give up his phone. Everything comes through two-factor identification, and all the stuff was coming through to him. And even though you change it, and I've changed everything just about now. I just went to CVS yesterday, and as I'm trying to pick up a prescription, it comes up, "Hi, Stephen." You're going to see this. You're going to feel it. And every time, even now, that kind of stuff happens, it's going to really hurt. It's going to really hurt hard. So you do your cars, you do your house, you might do a mortgage, you might have paid all the bills that were due. Now you figured out how to pay the bills. You got the bank account squared away. You're taking out the garbage. You're probably not feeding yourself. That's one thing. I used to be a very good Italian cook and cook for hours because he was the one that liked to eat my food. He loved my food, and I was pretty good. I haven't cooked in all these months, so you're not taking care of yourself. Please try to make sure that you do see somebody physically and emotionally. It's important to talk to someone. The other thing that I just realized the other day, which really scares the bejesus out of me, is I'm out a lot and driving in my car. And usually my dog, my 85-pounder, is there with me. Go places by myself to walk him. Before, if something, happened to my car, I'd just call my husband. And no matter what, he would come and get me, of course. But I don't have that now. So it's scary. Yes, you can have AAA, but you can also wait on the side of the road for a long time with a dog. So what I'm going to suggest to you is you may have a friend, you may have a circle, you may have a church group, you may be going to some sort of grief thing at your church. They don't spend a lot of time letting you get phone numbers, but I think I would suggest to you that you try to get a couple of people that you maybe became friends with, or you feel comfortable enough saying to them, hey, listen, can we be each other's support? Like, if I get stranded, can I text or call you? Or if you need something, like, I have one girlfriend that has been through this, and I'm like, I'm her listening sounding board, and she can be mine, but you always don't want to burden that person all the time either. But like, if you don't feel good and you have to go to the hospital, who do you call? Yes, you have children, but your children may not live in the same place as you, or they may be busy. They have lives. They work. I have a daughter, and she works in a police department, but it's 45 minutes away, so she's not going to be able to come and get me. So I would suggest that you try to think about that, and you get yourself a little circle, because that's what I'm going to start working on next, is trying to find a circle of people that I trust, that I can say, hey, if I'm really, I won't call you, I promise, but if I'm really stuck, can I call you? You know, um, my dog is 8, and of course I watch him like a hawk, but in our lifetime, we had many, many dogs, and it was always Steve that took them when their time came. And now I'm looking at my dog thinking, oh gosh, you're 8. How long are you going to last? My dogs typically they're big, so they go like 9 or 10. So I'm thinking about that. So all the things that they did, you don't realize. And if you're by chance watching this and you still have your husband or your wife, pay attention, because you really need to be in the moment. Be there for them. Tell them you love them. Give them that hug. Hold their hand. Do whatever you can do to tell them, because you're just not even going to realize when and if the time comes, how much is really taken from you. You literally have to establish your identity almost all over again, because you are a part of who they are. And I've changed tremendously since I married him. So you got to start the wheels in motion. You're going to have to go out and do things that you never did, like take your car to the shop and get it, get gas and oil in it and stuff like that. He always filled my car up for me. He always went to the bank and got cash and put it where he needed to put it. And I knew where it was. And so I didn't even have to stop at the bank. Those little things really mean a lot. And if the garbage disposal or if something went wrong that way, he always knew how to do that stuff. I can't even hardly work the remotes on my TV. And I'll bet you there's a lot of ladies that feel that way. I just want the darn thing to work. I don't care what button I have to push. Just tell me. There would be times when I would be watching something in the bedroom and he would be out there watching something, usually a war movie or something loud. And I'd yell for him, please, you got to come. My TV's not working. Like stupid stuff. And now I had to learn how to do that. You have to learn how to do printers and your internet. And so you learn it all. And it is kind of amazing that your brain can do that. Also, I've learned that your brain has to go through a complete rewire. And very soon we're going to get somebody to come on and talk about the neurological factors that happen, because I'm pretty sure if somebody lit up my brain right now with a scan, they would see some pretty interesting things. You literally have to rewire, because this person that has been part of you for so long is not there. And so much of your memories and your connections in 50 years deal with them and them being part of all that. So you're making these new connections and basically building a new life. And some of us build it at a younger age. The average age for a widow is 69. I was 73, 74. I just turned 74, I think. But, it's going to happen. I want you to write to me. I have my address, my email address. It's kind of long, but I will show it to you. And if you have a pen and you can write it down, as you know, I have a doctorate in educational leadership. So it's Dr. dot, my name, Phyllis, PHYLLIS Edwards @cloud.com. If you want to send me anything, be nice, please. But if you have questions, or if you've watched something and you want more information, or if you'd like to see something about something that I'm not mentioning in more depth, I would like you to write to me and tell me what you'd like to see, so that I can, kind of go off of that and either answer questions myself or have people here that will be able to answer questions, and or have another guest on that meets what you're requesting. So I hope that you will send that to me. I'll be looking for it. And thanks for listening. Remember, go back and watch. And also remember to hug yourself, because you've lost that too. You've lost the touch. You've lost the hugs. You lost the bear hugs. Get them from somebody. Get them from somebody else. Just your good friend, whatever. Just, get some hugging going on, because we all need that. It's very important in our lives. So this is Phyllis Edwards, Dr. Phyllis Edwards, signing off from The Widows Speak. I am excited that we're going to have on some more people very soon. We've done, 21, 22 episodes. And it's been, I think for those that are getting it, it's been well received. So I guess I'm asking for your input right now, and also asking that you be kind and loving and good to yourself, and try to look at the positive memories and look at the positive things that you have done. And this is the pot calling the kettle black, because I'm not that way. And so it's a big stretch for me to try to look at all the positives. Like, I did have him for 50 years. And I know somewhere in the middle of our lives, God saved him from some really serious things so that he could go on and have a life with me and my 2 children. And so I try to remember that, and try to think about the positive memories that I can, and just be kind to yourself, and think, like, if you were talking to your best friend and they were going through this and they told you something, you would be very kind to them, and you would be very easygoing, and you would give them reinforcement. But you probably don't do that for yourself. You're probably really, really hard on yourself, like most of us are. So I'm going to ask you to try hard, like I am, and we'll compare notes. So from me to you, I wish you all, every one of you, beauty for ashes. God says he's with the brokenhearted. He knows the tears that we cry. So I'm asking you to hang in there, and you're going to be great. Just keep going. God bless you.
Things are truly better with us.